Sabaha everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we finally have the brand new Oppo Find X2 Pro. I know this device obviously is not brand new, it was announced, a lot of people covered it, but I haven't been able to get my hands on it till today. So I want to talk to you guys about some of the things that I'm really liking about this device after having it for the last 72 hours. This is TK and this is the brand new Oppo Find X2 Pro. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So here we have it, the brand new Oppo Find X2 Pro. And of course this one is in the orange vegan leather color, so definitely very premium as far as the material. Gold accented color all around the actual bezels. And of course, very minimal, basically a large display, a 6.78 inch display, QHD resolution with 120 Hz refresh rate at the same time. So definitely really appreciated. And of course, we can't go too far without saying that obviously there's a lot of resemblance for this device to what we see with the OnePlus 8 Pro. And of course, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I do want to cover obviously a lot of the things I'm really excited about this one. The display is gorgeous, the colors, everything looks beautiful as you can see here with the background that I have here. I did opt to install or activate the app drawer in here. There is an option to turn that on. We have the smart assistant that's built in here. Dark mode is present, and of course the 120 Hz refresh rate is sitting right there. So let's go ahead and jump into the display right away. So I have it right now set to work at QHD with 120 Hz refresh, and that's just absolutely the best option that you can do. Obviously we have the screen lighting effect, which is really nice. I love that also. I set that up to be orange and ocean blue for the different notification. Screen and display options, we have basically the ability of hiding the notch, of course full screen applications. The other option here that I really like is the O1, or basically the Ultra Vision engine, which essentially upgrades the video that we're watching from, let's say, SD, 30 frames per second up to 60 and even up to 120 Hz whenever you have the mode activated, especially when you're watching content, let's say YouTube, Netflix, and so on. So some of the really cool things in there are obviously built into our device, specifically with the display. So that's really exciting for me. Sound and vibration, as you can imagine, definitely some of the best audio here. We have stereo speakers with the top earpiece and the bottom earpiece. We have, of course, headphone monitors as well as Dolby Atmos that's built in, and you can activate it and, of course, customize it. The other options that I really like about this device is the fact that the dark mode looks really good and it actually permeates through all of the UI. This is running ColorOS 7.1, Oppo's latest version of the software. And as you can see there, the Oppo Find X2 Pro and of course Android 10.0 with ColorOS 7.1, Snapdragon 865, 12 gigs of RAM with 512 gigs of internal storage. No expandable storage, but we do have 2 SIM cards here. And as you can see, I am using 1 SIM right now. Definitely running some of the latest software, latest features, of course, with some of the latest camera optics that we're able to get here. When we look at the actual device overall, we're looking at 3 different cameras here. We have a dual 48 megapixel sensor, which is similar to what we saw with the OnePlus, but where it actually does differ a little bit is that we have a telescopic camera that's present at the top, which is different than what we have on the OnePlus device. So even though there's some similarities between this and the OnePlus 8 Pro, there are also some differences that also permeate beyond the actual aesthetics, as well as the fact that the battery on this device can go from 0 to 100% in about 36 minutes. It's slightly smaller than what we have on the 8 Pro, as that one's a 4500 milliamp battery, but that one takes about an hour from 0 to 100, and this one takes 36 minutes from 0 to 100%. And that's because of the dual battery technology that they have here, as well as the 65 watt charger that they're able to use to just basically boost the charging speed as fast as possible. Now looking at it on the left side, we'll notice that there's a volume rocker, and of course the nice gold accented colors that permeate with the orange vegan leather that we have on the back. This actually is one of the reasons why I haven't been putting a case on it, or haven't even tried looking for a case. I definitely appreciate holding it, and of course it helps with the fingerprints, since this is not, there's no fingerprint issues in the back, and it helps with the grip as well. On the right side, we have a power button that is accented with a green little light. Hopefully you guys can see that. So there's a little bit of a green inside of the gold power button. And of course on the bottom, we have a bottom firing speaker, USB-C, dual SIM tray with one of the microphones for the camera. On the top, we basically just have one of the microphones for the camera. Again, as I mentioned to you guys, we have a stereo speaker, so the earpiece that's present at the top is married with the bottom firing speaker to give us stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos, of course. The camera has a lot of options, and I've been taking pictures as much as possible. Obviously, we have the wide angle lens, and we can also zoom in all the way into basically 10 times and even up to 60 times using basically the telescopic camera zoom that we have in the back. Most of the focus, I think, will probably be on the main camera. We're able to shoot 4K 60 frames per second on the main camera on the back, and of course up to 1080p on the front-facing sensor that we have here. So just keep that in mind. Night mode, of course, dedicated night mode here directly from Oppo. photo, portrait mode, and of course under more we have the ability of using Google Lens, built-in integration, slow motion, text scanner, panorama, time-lapse, of course, stickers, as well as Pro mode, which is referred to as expert mode. They also do have a very nice, if you go into the video section, the ability of turning on ultra steady or super steady. Basically ultra steady is present here, and this is present on the standard focal length camera. And if I jump over here into the Pro, it jumps over to the wider angle lens, and then of course we're able to get 1080p stabilized footage from the main sensors on the back. No 4K 30 stabilized footage, but we definitely have very good optics as far as the camera. Let's go ahead and jump into looking at some pictures. Now you can definitely appreciate the colors and of course the depth of the information here, the shallow depth of field here with the large sensor that we have. And this looks really, really fantastic. Just took this morning from a nice walk with the family. Switching over to the bridge, and of course standard focal length, wide angle lens, and of course all the way zooming in with the main sensor. And of course, last but not least, a really nice image of a tree with obviously the sun setting right behind it. Just looks really good in HDR. So no question that the cameras that we have here are obviously going to provide you some really good images as well as some really good videos. So let's go ahead and switch over to some quick video and audio samples, obviously from the camera, using it outside.
You have to admire the fact that most of these sensors now on the main flagships give us the ability of getting gimbal steady footage from the main sensors on the back. And that of course essentially is shooting in a wider angle and of course cropping it in and stabilizing it software-wise. This should be a good example of what the Find X2 Pro is capable of providing us. This is the Pro mode on the backside, so essentially a wider angle lens at 1080p, so sorry, no 4K stabilized, but definitely looks really good. Went ahead and switched over to the 4K 60 frames per second resolution here, so obviously we've bumped up the resolution, but we of course lost the Super Steady or the Super Steady Pro functionality. Should be a pretty good example of how the audio plays. Keep in mind that I have some birds flying around and of course just normal ambient noise, so we'll see how that plays back, and of course a few more birds flying above me. Again, 4K 60, really appreciated on the back main sensor here on the Find X2 Pro. Of course, we have to test out the front-facing camera. Now, this one is capped at 1080p at 30 frames per second. I'm not sure why a lot of manufacturers only cap it at that level, but obviously we know that the sensor is a high megapixel sensor, so hopefully in the future we'll be able to see a software update that pushes it at least further, maybe 1080p 60 or even 4K 30. But again, should be pretty good example of what the Find X2 Pro can do with the front-facing sensor that we have here.
And of course, for a quick audio sample, obviously to be able to appreciate the audio that we have here, volume at 100%, and I'm basically going to play Jumbo by Alex Quindo. This is an NCS release. So no question, definitely some good bass, as well as actually some pretty good volumes as far as listening to audio. So no question about that. Definitely really good sound on this. And as you saw with the video, the actual audio from this and the stabilization, especially when you're using that Ultra Steady Pro with the wider angle lens, definitely looks really nice. And I appreciate having that as far as the actual mechanics here. The other thing that I really like, obviously, is gaming and playing and using this device. So I did a couple of benchmarks here just to be able to kind of do a quick comparison. Overall, as far as Geekbench, I was able to run it a couple of times, one with basically performance mode on and off. So the first one right here, we had 880, jump over here, 898 with 3250 with the standard, no performance turned on, 906 on the single core, 3165. So roughly in about the same realm of what we see with the OnePlus 8 Pro, which is definitely appreciated there. And of course, as far as the internal speed, you can take a look right there. Obviously, the read and write are very, very nice and very fast, and of course, quite capable of giving us the best gaming experience that we want to be able to get on this device. So overall, for me, I've been playing PUBG, obviously, as if you probably guys know, right there, right out of the bat, it turns on the gaming mode. And of course, I can swipe up from the top and I can see the different options that we have here as far as basically snippet, screen recording, and more information as far as the game. Last but not least, of course, since this is running stereo speakers at a really nice volume, you're able to basically enjoy it. And of course, just have fun playing PUBG. As you can imagine, gaming on this is not going to be a problem, and of course no issues, video recording at 1080p, of course, on top of the fact that I was playing the game Of course, the audio is really good. It's going to sound a lot better if you're using obviously a wired connection. Now comparing them to each other, obviously the 8 Pro and the Find X2 Pro came out at a different time. They do have obviously similar displays. So yes, when we look at the actual display itself, it's literally about the same size display. And of course, we have very much similar technology as far as 120 Hertz, and of course, both running at QHD resolution. And you can definitely see the similarities in there. Of course, if I put them next to each other, you can kind of see it almost looks like they're continuing each other. Camera placement is on the same section. The earpiece is at the top, although that's some of the things where it differs is the battery size. We have a bigger battery here. The optics on here are obviously different as well. We don't have the telescopic camera. We have a quad camera set up with an IR camera that also has the ability of seeing through things, as you guys probably saw with one of the other videos that I've done. Lastly, we have as well as the ability here of having 30-watt charger as opposed to a 65-watt charger. So charging speed is different. Battery capacity slightly different. And of course, we also have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging on the 8 Pro, where we don't have that here on the Find X2 Pro. No telescopic camera. Other than that, I think they both don't include obviously the 3.5mm headphone jack. They both use wireless as well as wired. Dolby Atmos built in on both. But again, that's partially what you can see as far as the similarities in them. I think the display is about roughly where it kind of ends. The UI obviously is very different. Both are running custom UIs. So we are obviously looking at ColorOS 7.1 with Oxygen OS. Both running their own flavor of Android as far as basically the customization level, but I can definitely appreciate having the fast, obviously native Android 10.0 gestures, as well as, of course, all of the main features that I really like about it. And as much as I do appreciate having the OnePlus, and it looks really, really nice, I like that obviously the Find X2 Pro gives us a little bit more of a stylish, unique experience, and of course, the different experience with the telescopic camera on the back. So what do I think about the Oppo Find X2 Pro? I think there's no question that this is a top-tier premium device from Oppo. It's running the latest version of Android as well as the latest version of ColorOS, which is 7.1. And to my knowledge, that's about the only one that's running the latest version of the software outside of India. I think for the most part, most of the latest version of the operating system from Oppo has been focused on the Indian market with the 10x zoom. My version, which was the international one, did not even get that version of the software. If you're looking for a premium device from Oppo in 2020, I think this is definitely where it is right now. The aesthetics and of course the shift in design from last year where we had the pop-up camera mechanism and obviously no IP68 rating at this time, which we do have obviously with this version. I think that's also a design change. They went with a faux leather back with the vegan leather that we have here, and it looks really good. I think my main thing for me obviously is the fact that it charges so fast that you really don't even need to think about wireless charging, and that's probably why they don't have it in there. And it's been kind of the story that we've had with OnePlus for quite some time, right? They've always said that we never needed wireless charging because wired charging is so fast. So when I compare them between that and the 8 Pro, I can see some similarities when it comes down to the display, the QHD resolution with the 120 Hertz refresh rate, and of course the 240 Hertz, touch sampling rate. And last but not least, obviously the super brightness levels that both of these devices can get. But of course, that's when it starts to differ. Camera setup is different, the backing of the material on the outside is different, and of course, we start looking at the charging speed and the battery capacity. So it is definitely its own device, and I need to spend a little bit more time to be able to give you guys obviously a full review. But as initial impressions, I am super excited, very happy I was finally able to get it into the office. And of course, let me know in the comments below, what would you like me to focus on for you guys as far as comparisons and things to basically take a look at. So far, the cameras are fantastic. I love the pictures that are coming out of it. I would have wished to have obviously 8K and 4K 30 frames per second on the front-facing camera, but again, some of these things could come in a later update down the road. This is TK. Thank you very much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.